Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything is a new D&D book that's supposed to come out when?
November 17th.
November 17th.
It's going to be a great birthday present for me.
Right, because your birthday is November 11th.
Indeed.
So who wants to talk about what's going to be in the book? Kind of the general overview.
Well, the reason we're excited about it. Knock yourself out, man. You're dressed for the occasion.
All right, sounds good. Yes, I am. Though I think Sylvia's horns would go the opposite way, but I was just like, oh, let me see if these will work with my headphone setup, and they do. So I'm excited. It opens up a whole new realm of things for me to wear on the stream. Anyways, so Tasha's comes out on November 17th. It's 192 pages. There are 4 chapters to it. 1 is character options, 2 is spells and magic items, 3 is group patrons, and 4 is tools for dungeon masters. And very much like Xanathar's Guide to Everything, it will have comments from Tasha and captions throughout the book, which will be interesting. And then there is a standard edition, which you can get anywhere, and then there will be a exclusive alternate cover that will be available only at game stores.
So that's the basic news. And it's a big deal because we haven't had a book that was all crunch since Xanathar's, and that came out 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Was it really that long?
You, but I would.
Yeah. Either 2 or 3 years ago. And of course, like the previous books, it's coming out with a regular cover and a alternative cover. The alternative cover is very, very artsy, but it's not by, what is it, Hydro72? It's a completely different artist.
No, it is not. And just to follow up, Xanathar's Guide to Everything came out on November 15th, 2017. So it'll be 3 years since we've had a whole book full of crunch.
Oy.
Let's talk about what this one's going to do that's new. There's 2 main things that it's going to do. It's going to have a selection of alternate class features. So not new subclasses, but features that you can swap out or maybe in some cases even add to existing features to make your perhaps ranger play a little differently and maybe better.
It may be better. They're still trying to patch the ranger.
Well, I mean, I think this book will literally patch the ranger because for the ranger at least, you'll probably be able to swap out less desirable class features for ones that are good.
Yeah.
The ranger is notorious because one of its class features actually makes it worse because it describes that rangers can detect invisible creatures certain ways that is worse than the ability that any normal person can.
Yeah.
And then the second thing they're doing is they are disconnecting player races like dwarf and elf from ability score modifiers and potentially other things like weapon proficiencies, which will.
So, like where an elf would get proficiency in longsword and longbow, now you can just say, "I've got some elf ancestry and I am proficient in longsword and longbow."
Potentially, they're going to have a fill in the blank style template, and it's possible they'll have basically a list that'll include the proficiencies. But even if all the proficiencies stay the same, the one thing that really will often make people hesitant to play a character is if, with a race combination, is if they don't have a +2 or even a +1 in the key stat. Like, it's tough to play a wizard if you're not playing a race that's at least +1. Like, it's easy to say that the difference between, starting with a 16 and a 14 is just +1. It doesn't really affect anything, but
that's +1 to your attack rolls. That's +1 to a bunch of saves.
And now that won't be a dissuading factor. So we'll see a lot of interesting combinations that people probably always really wanted to play, but just weren't conducive.
Yeah, like Minotaur wizards and.
I'm looking over this Reddit section that you sent us, Paige, and I can't help but notice that where it says barbarian, there's just a big old blank space.
The Reddit detectives are still working.
Yeah.
They did say
Okay,
that
okay.
all classes will have at least one new subclass and some new class features that they can mix and swap with the existing ones.
Yeah.
You should
Well,
definitely
here I
share
just thought
the.
that Barbarian was the perfect class.
Yeah, no, there will be. So of course, they've released a set of what's going to be coming out on the Wizards webpage, and it's very high level. And then a bunch of, as Ron put it, Reddit detectives are going around snooping in people's different Twitters and websites and whatever to see what little pieces they can pick up from all these different sources to learn more about it. So here's some old school history I bet a lot of you didn't know. The spell, Tasha's Hideous Laughter, actually was created after a young girl sent Gary Gygax a letter in crayon asking him to create a spell involving laughter, and the kid's name was Natasha, so he created this spell in honor of her having written him, asking her to create this spell.
Oh, that's interesting. I thought Tasha was one of the original adventure characters, just like you have Mordenkainen and now I'm totally blanking up. Tensor. There we go. I remember another one.
Big B.
Big B. Yeah, you got to remember the hands.
Yep. Yeah, she was. So she's been... That brings me... So she's been a lot of different things at a lot of different times. So originally, this is what she looked like. Oops, I should take you with me. She was released on the cover of Dragon magazine looking like this. That is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And
she's wearing more than I thought she'd be for a cover.
For the 80s,
Ben,
right?
You say the things we all think.
I want to point out that she's slightly older than you are, Ben. She was released in Dragon
magazine.
Dragon magazine number 83 in 1984, which I think is the early part of that year. But she's not a lot older than you are.
And I don't even have any spells named after me yet.
Yeah,
she's kind of got like a Morticia Adams look to her there.
Well, she does, and in the new imagining of Tasha, which I personally really dig, she's gotten very witchy. And her whole shtick is that she has been said that she is actually Baba Yaga. So she looks very...
She's impinging on the territory, action hero territory.
Yeah, like some of the art from the book. Check this out.
He doesn't look anything like Keanu.
Stop.
So some of the art from the book shows her hanging out with the chicken leg tut.
So that's interesting because
that's a pretty good indicator.
Yeah.
On an article I saw, it said that she was an apprentice of Baba Yaga, and that art is Baba Yaga looking over her as she studies.
Oh, okay.
So I'm curious what it will end up being. However, gotta say, satyrs represent right there in that picture.
Right, right. The art is pretty cool. In 3.5, in Greyhawk, she was pretty much synonymous with Igglewiv, which is a very powerful adventurer that was part of the group of 7. And she had... It was the 80s. It was kind of a different time. She was famed for sexual manipulation of various persons and supposed to be kind of sexy, but she was associated with Grizit, the prince, and was she his lover? Was she his ex? It was always a little fuzzy. So it'd be interesting to see what the role-playing elements are for Tasha in this edition.
So
but she looks like a stone
just
badass. I'm in it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So, but You said a prince. Prince of what? Are we like Purple Rain Prince, or like how?
No,
is-
Grizit.
how what do you-
Grizit, Prince of Hell.
Yeah, but what? Okay, thank you. Because
Yeah.
not everyone may know what that is.
Gotcha.
So for all the
I
listeners
can
at home,
guarantee that.
Right.
and for Coda,
right.
for all the
Hey,
listeners, and for Mike, for Coda.
Did anybody else notice that at the base of the house is literally a swamp hag?
Oh yeah.
If you look-
Maybe that's Baba Yaga. I did not
Yeah, I
notice
think-
that in the art.
I think it was Polygon maybe that said that Baba Yaga watches on as Tasha studies, so maybe that is supposed to be her. I assumed that she was just in the hut watching, but I didn't make that out. Good job on the spot check there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
one of the classes that's really, I think, going to get some polish in Tasha is the Artificer. It's apparently being reprinted from Eberron, Rising from the Last World, and it's going to have like subclasses and all kinds of stuff to go with it. So I know that's going to make a lot of people really happy.
Yeah, they're going to reprint it, but they're also going to kind of rephrase it to make it a setting neutral class, which will be good because, I imagine most of the settings in D&D have people that, someone's got to make all these magic items everyone's always wearing.
Right.
And Artificer seems like the kind of class that would do that. So I think it'll fit in really naturally to mini settings.
All right, so here's a question that I don't know the answer to. What are everybody's feelings about psionics?
So, I have a razor thin understanding of the history of psionics in D&D. The one thing I know above all, it's highly, highly contentious. I
It's
personally
polarizing.
don't mind them. I think they're fine, whatever. Like, I don't mind a little bit of Jean Grey in my D&D.
Fair.
But, like, I know a lot of people that hate psionics.
Big time.
Like,
Why not?
I don't think Ben's eyes could have gone any further into his head.
I mean, they could have, but then they would have gotten stuck.
I'd had to come down there with a spatula to unstick them.
I imagined the Baldur's Gate 3 video game that's coming out, since it features Githyanki and Illithids prominently, will probably have a lot of psionic things in it. So they might be starting to cover some of that in this book. So far, all the psionic stuff has just been reflavored spells. Like the Githyanki just has Mage Hand, and they say they summon it with psionic power, but mechanically it's the same. And I think
isn't it invisible?
Well, yeah, it is invisible, but I mean they did the same thing with the Arcane Trickster. They let it.
Yeah, but that's a class feature you're getting as a race option. Like, that's not nothing. Don't just be throwing that out with the bathwater.
Well, my point is they didn't create a new power system.
Yeah,
for
it wasn't
psionics,
new. It was just reskinned.
like they've done in the past. Like they've
Yeah.
experimented with PowerPoints and other things, and currently they haven't done that yet. They also haven't made a truly sonic class yet. So
Yeah. In I think the PowerPoint system was used in 2nd and 3rd edition, and then 4th edition had completely different base mechanics. But for those of you who weren't with us in those editions, you had a bunch of talents, a bunch of things you could do, and each of them cost X many points, like 1 to 5 or 6 maybe. And then you got so many power points every time you took a long rest, and you just spent them doing psionic things. When you were out, you were out. So that was always an interesting. It's kind of like spells that you use them up and you don't get any more until you take a long rest, but it's different because it's far more flexible.
Well, but
It
isn't that
always
what
kind of
Sorcerer
reminded me of like an MP system from a video game RPG.
What did you say, Ben?
I said, isn't that what sorcerers do already? You have your spells, and then you can do things to them with points. And once you're out of points, you're out unless you sacrifice spells. Like, why do we need psionics? Like, it sounds like a new tracking system to keep track of things to be what that we don't already have.
But
Well,
I think so. I think so far they agree with you, Ben. I mean, in this new book that's coming out, Tasha's, they're going to have a sorcerer that's psionic themed. So
and a wizard.
Yeah, and a wizard as well. So I think they might have made the decision they're just not going to make a new psionic system.
Right.
At least until they need to sell more books, like in 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it is interesting. You make a pretty good point. With the existence of spells like telekinesis and mind control that wizards and sorcerers already have access to, I have always wondered, like, what's the decision of actually making psionics its own separate thing?
It is merely, I think, tradition held over from first and second edition. I don't recall whether or not there were psionics in first. There might have been for bad guys.
You said it was because of what?
Tradition.
Well,
Tradition.
A lot of popular culture has people in it that are psionicists, right?
Yeah.
They use their mind, so people want to play a psionicist character, and they're not necessarily happy playing a reskinned wizard. They want to play a psionicist.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to play Wolverine, but I'm not asking for there to be rules for adamantine claws that come out of my hands just in book. Like,
so you're not asking for it on our public Twitch stream that's being viewed by many of the higher ups on the Wizards people, I assume.
Yeah, but
if you are watching, bring it on, and also bring all those cool Graviturgis powers so that I can make Magneto in AL, because that would be way better than it being off in this land that's behind a gate.
Ben loves himself some Magneto.
I mean, Ben, if you wanted to play some Wolverine, just make a monk, have a wizard cast Regenerate, and then take some bladed knuckles. You're good.
I'll give you a cantrip that costs X many points of damage to you as it pops out, and that gives you a hand-to-hand fighting weapon.
It's basically just a quick draw cantrip that causes you damage.
Yeah.
Hurts every time, bub.
Yep.
Paige, we did it. We created Wolverine in D&D. Good job.
Taryn Chef points out that psionics were a way for people with no magic parents to basically do magic, but in D&D.
Oh, now that is a good point. That is a great point, and I didn't think about that. Terran Artificer, you get an inspiration point in your next D&D game. You tell him Paige said so.
What? Now,
I know.
Anybody can be a wizard. All you got to do is have schooling and put some effort.
No.
But
The idea is that in the Satanic Panic, you can say, no, Mom, we're not casting spells. It's psionics, completely different.
Telepathy and
ESP.
Completely different.
Totally okay. Okay.
Hey, man, we had to do whatever we could do back in the Dark Ages.
It was just mind control.
Yes. Well, mind control was like MK Ultra. Like the CIA was doing that already. So for us to pick up on it.
The right amount of acid.
I think we could make...
What?
Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so the CIA is doing it, that means it's cool? So does that mean we should be worried
about
flopping over
doesn't,
regimes all
and
over
it never
Mastica?
will, but I'm just saying it worked in the 80s for some people. It really did.
I could make some awful comment here about the religious undertones and mind control, and I'm sure there's some connections we could explore, but...
I think it broke down to the fact that these parents just didn't know what psionics were, and they just made it easier. Right?
Psionics sounds like science.
You just gotta say
that's what it took.
The parents.
Yep, that's what
we did it. We've solved psionics, y'all.
Yeah.
Go forth and play Numenera, and then all of your problems are solved.
Yep.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So one thing this book is doing that is very interesting for the subset of people who play Adventurers League, which is the organized play system for Dungeons and Dragons, is that it's pulling things in from a lot of different books and putting them in one place. Like you have Blade Singer from Sword Coast Adventurers Guide. What else do we have, folks?
We have a whole lot of awesome stuff from Magic, which I'm super excited about. We're getting the Order Domain Cleric and Circle of Spores Druid from Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica.
Spores.
Yeah. And then we're getting the College of Eloquence Bard, which I'm playing in this stream, and the Oath of Glory Paladin from Mystic Odysseys of Theros. So it's going to be awesome to see Magic be a little more mainstream and to be more open and integrated to different D&D worlds.
Well, they might
ahead,
smooth
Ron.
the edges off, like they already said they were going to do for the Artificer.
Yeah.
In other words, take the D&D trappings off. I mean, the Magic the Gathering trappings off of it.
Mm-hmm. We'll see.
Paige, I'm really glad that you mentioned the School of Blade Singing,
Mm-hmm.
because as I was looking over the Reddit, I was like, what is blade singing?
Need to read more fiction.
Yes. Blade singing is an ancient elven specialty. Blade
No,
singing's, I
not
think, a
blade
wizard?
singing.
Oh.
Blades ing.
Blades inging. Got it. The old ingings. Those ingings leech every time.
I see.
You're a monster. Just a monster.
Coda, you need more sleep, buddy.
I had a moment, okay? I had a moment.
Magic tattoos are coming in this book. A lot of people super excited. Oh, back. So it's pulling in stuff from Ravnica and what's that thing? Eberron and all these, and Sword Coast Adventurers Guide, and putting it in one book. Well, in Adventures League, you can usually make up a character and you can use the PHB, but one other source. So if you wanted to have Green Flame Blade, Sword Coast Adventurers Guide was your other source. Or if you wanted to be a Bugbear, Volos was your other source. And you could not be a Tabaxi that was a Squashbuckler because they were in different books.
A squash buckler?
Sometimes they're called Squashbucklers because they get squashed a lot. They're a little delicate.
I didn't know that. Excellent.
Yeah. Sometimes they're called Squishbucklers because they also get squished. But so that's going to change some stuff in Adventures League, and I know the admins are still trying to figure out how to do what they're going to do with it.
Now, wait a minute. You said magic tattoos? Isn't
Magic tattoos coming.
isn't the tattooed monk already a thing, or am I thinking of a previous edition?
I mean, in a different system altogether.
Yes, in Heroes of Rokugan,
no.
Legend of the Five Rings, we have a lot of tattooed monks, but not in D&D.
I could have sworn that in a previous edition of D&D there were tattooed monks.
I mean, there was literally everything that could exist did exist in 3.5 because they were coming out with a book every month.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like Rule 34 of the internet. This is like Rule 34B. Like if it exists, it's in 3.5 somewhere. So I'm sure it was somewhere.
Yeah.
So other things that we're excited about, I'm excited there'll be new magic items, including class-specific magic items. So clerics will not just be stuck with wishing that they had something more than prayer beads. So that'll be great.
Yeah, the clerics need some love.
Well, they're getting the order subclass they're getting from Ravenica is quite powerful.
Yeah, the clerical order subclass is hot.
What does it do?
It allows
Basically,
you,
this cleric tells you to sit down and shut up and obey the law, and then you do that thing.
Or it opens up opportunities in the law for its allies to act more often. So one of the things that you can do is, I think it's once per short rest, I think, per your wisdom modifier, you can let someone use their reaction to basically take an action.
Oh, cool.
And it's very exciting because it opens up a whole lot of cool team dynamics that you don't normally have in D&D.
So one thing I'm excited about is that it's got mechanics and ideas and flavor text for group patrons. So if you have a group of adventurers, perhaps your group of adventurers belongs to an adventuring academy or to a spy agency or are minions for a dragon who's going out and doing things.
or rangers that work for a government.
Ding!
Foresters.
Ding! Ron, you may have a point of inspiration. Yes, so I'm excited to see how that works. They have some gorgeous art of a merfolk sovereign. I'll put that on my Twitter. It's beautiful.
Have they actually released any rules about how that's going to work?
That's
Well,
what this book is. It's new rules.
Well, so group patrons was introduced in Eberron Rising from the Last War, and I don't remember how they work. So, but it'll be interesting to see.
They were a really great way to both bring the party together as far as a shared background opportunity, which we as a group have traditionally used more fate-based stuff to do, but having it built in D&D will be nice, and it also provides a good hook to keep the party together and working towards a goal, as opposed to what you get sometimes with some groups where it's like, well, I have done the thing I want to do, I'm going to jettison this character and have to come up with someone else so I can keep playing with this group. But instead, you can have natural ties in that strengthen your group from a narrative standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that could be really exciting. So there's one little throwaway line in here that I'm also just like heart aflutter about. There's a section on magic environments, and it mentions things like eldritch storms and magic roads and a mirror realm, and then just casually throws in a mimic colony where everything is a mimic.
Sounds terrible.
Man, you better have a strong bladder.
And if you think I'm not going to do that at some point, you got another thing coming.
I'm getting flashbacks to Prey, and only in like the most great and also horrible ways. Where
guys, what if all of Aglaron is just one giant mimic? What if? That was not the throwaway line I thought you were going to go with, Paige. The one I would like to point out is there will be new feats.
Will there also be fables?
I'm super excited about more feats. Like, anytime somebody says, hey, this book's got new feats, I'm like, oh, yes, please.
Yeah, you almost pick your feats first and then you make a character.
I do.
Like, I'm not afraid to admit it. That's how I do.
Nah, dog. I need that Drake meme where it's like, nah.
Another thing that they're going to cover in this book is session zeros, which is a very powerful tool that really can almost make or break an entire campaign or even gaming group. So I think making it more mainstream, the idea of having a session zero, sitting down and talking about things like previously mentioned, like why are our characters adventuring together? What is the DM thinking that they're going to throw at us? Like, is it just going to be straight courtroom intrigue? Or is it going to be, nothing but a battlefield? Are they going to spring a black dragon on you in the middle of a swamp?
Right?
I mean,
that is so weird, right?
These are things that should be covered in session zeros. So people can know to get out.
Yeah, the other thing about session zeros is it's a great time to talk about where your borders are, because like there's some things that people just cannot cope with. Like some people are like, you can't kill pets. That's just the rule. You can't do it. Can't do it. It will not be done. That is an awesome rule. Or can't involve kids. Just can't do it. I think that is an awesome rule too. You won't see pets and kids in this adventure. Familiars are different.
Yes.
Familiars
have
Yep,
to
and I think we'll have an article up on our blog before not too long talking about our session zero and some of the things we discussed. So look forward to that at featsandfables.com.
So anything else we want to talk about Tasha's Cauldron of everything? Any predictions we want to make? Nope.
I mean, it's Tasha's.
Super excited! Anyhow, we have something to look forward to coming out on November 17th.